Carl Sagan could not have predicted 2021, but he did see it coming. He wrote the following back in 1995, and we quote, "I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media, the 30-second sound bites now down to 10 seconds or less, lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance." Roll that around for a while. Those were among his final published words. He died 10 months later. Here we are 25 years later, realizing just what he was trying to tell us back then.
So Google's bias keeps getting exposed time and time again. As you know, we have first run in with Google's bias when they created the Gemini, which is supposed to be a generative AI image program AI that they have, and it was generating inaccurate historical depictions of what happens. The founding father was black. What George Washington was a black man, right? The when you put black family, it's always a single mom, but if you put white family, it says, oh, these things are dangerous ideas, and they had to essentially rework the entire application because it wasn't practically useful. And that is due to the fact that this is an argument I always have with people who try to pretend that the mainstream media is somehow neutral, even though 97% of US journalists are liberal. Is that my argument is that their bias bleeds into their work, right? Whether that is unknowingly or unconsciously ignoring or not giving light to evidence that goes counter to a narrative that they're portraying through their works. And I'm gonna show you some examples of this. First, I'm gonna call into questions Google's bias, right? Obviously, if you look at the donations from top contributors to former Vice President Joe Biden during the 2020 election and President Trump at the time during 2020, sorry, 2020, I said 2020 like 3 times already. Alphabet Inc., which is the parent company of Google, donated their employees donated over 1.7 million dollars to the Biden campaign. And look at Trump. Trump don't have I don't know how much the contribution point is, but it's insanely high, right? And look at the University of California, right? Then also I want to point to you that the Ivy League universities have a big slant, right? And this is where Google, a lot of these major tech companies, this is where they get a lot of their talent from. And you wonder why these corporations are becoming so woke. Ivy League professors lean overwhelmingly towards the Democratic Party. During the 2022 midterm elections, 96% of political donations went to Democrat, only 4% went to Republicans in the Ivy Leagues, right? But political bias, misinformation, disinformation, we living in echo chambers. The next time some academic tells you how important diversity is, ask how many Republicans there are in their sociology department. Thomas Sowell. More than 80% of surveyed Harvard faculty identify as liberal. And these are the people conditioning your kids. These are the kids teaching your kids about stuff, right? With claims of Google search bias back in the headlines, here's a look at how search engine news feature grew more slanted in recent years. Right? Google's news bias have gotten more pronounced since 2022. 63% of articles come from media outlets of all sides rated as lean left or left, and only just 6% were on the right. But Kitty, Right wingers are in a political echo chamber. No, the most used Google, the most used search engine, 60% of the news it recommends to you is from left leaning or leftist, left wing sources, left wing outlets. And we already know they control your attention, what you focus on, right? Facebook is also being accused of this as well. Facebook is now censoring iconic images of Trump's defiant fist. It is now flagged as misinformation. And what is the common argument I always point on this channel? Misinformation is not actually inaccurate information. Misinformation is things that are detrimental to my preferred political view. They say this is an altered, sorry guys, they say this is an altered post, making this game, oh no, this is fake. And you wonder why 33% of Democrats believe that Trump's assassination attempt was staged. Because they're being conditioned through their echo chambers called Facebook, Instagram, Google News feed, with only stories and an ideology that only warps around their perception. This is why 58% of Democrats still trust in the mainstream media, while independents majority don't trust in the mainstream media, and definitely Republicans definitely don't trust the mainstream media. But whenever Republicans or the conservatives bring up the slanting, hey, look, you're in an echo chamber, liberal. No. We get our news from more diverse sources than you do. Yes, there's more left-wing media than right-wing media. This is why right-wingers, most of them, are independent content creators online. For every one Fox News, there's NBC, CNN, Reuters, NPR. Everyone's been pointing out the bias in the news organizations. I point out the political slant with U.S. journalists. 97% of U.S. journalists are Democrat. And you wonder why they want to hide certain things and they want to uplift certain things, right? Right? People who used to work for these organizations 50 years ago. I have worked as a reporter for 50 years for NBC and CBS, then ABC, and then Fox. But now I come to hate most of the media. They scare people to death about minor threats and spin left while pretending to be neutral. This is NPR. This is Axios. Right? Here's an example of how the media can misrepresent things. Right? The 2 seconds at the end of the Wall Street Journal edited out is the difference between the corporate media manufacturing dictator narrative and an obvious joke. So the first video we're gonna watch together. Let me get it set up for you guys.
Christians.
The first video is from Wall Street Journal, and this is how they present things to you. Right now, let me ask you: you're an American voter. Your American journalism institution is run 97% by the Democrats. They're Democratic voters, they're Democratic donors, they're Democratic how you say it, citizens. Like they identify with the political party that's against Donald Trump. Now let me ask you their incentive. Would they be incentivized to report Donald Trump honestly, or to prove a conclusion or a narrative that they want you to have? That is a question every independent, right? Because most people are independent, right? Every undecided voter should be thinking in the back of their heads. I'm not trying to pitch you anything. I'm just trying to highlight the discrepancies and the incentive structures that U.S. journalists currently have to frame anybody against their preferred political party in a negative light. And I'm making sure you, as an American voter, are well informed. And I believe, as a conservative, that it's not in my best interest to have you only unaware of the source of the information you're getting, the perception that you're being fed as something being objectively accurate or neutral. It is not. This is the only point of me pointing this out in this video. Let's take a look at this 26-second clip.
Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again.
Right? And then they'll spin that. Okay. Oh my God, Trump's a dictator. Same video, right? Like side by side. This is what, as a conservative, this is why I do. Right? Because I'm tired of people twisting my words, clipping something out of context, and then they run with their imagination of what they think Trump said. And then when you hear the whole thing out for yourself, you find out,
Christians, get out and vote.
this is a joke. Most of the narrative, like the dictator narrative, the bloodbath narrative, a lot of these villainizations of Trump or the demonizations of Trump are merely them taking a couple clips. They cut it a little bit short to get that boom. Oh, look, he said it. He said that. And this is what they were talking about of airlifting quotes. Let's take another look at the second clip.
Vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
Wow. What 2 sec? How much impact 2 seconds make on a clip? The first clip, they took 2 seconds out and it says, after you won't have to, you don't need to vote anymore. They go, look, he's trying to be a dictator. He's trying to be King Trump. This is how they get you. This is the emotionalism that they try to manipulate you with. This is why I said people who on the left, I believe in their ranks, in the liberalism ranks, in the Democratic ranks, they have some of the most manipulative people, most deceptive people on their side of the aisle. Honestly. I have a public policy and a private policy, says Hillary Clinton. And you see it in full display. They'll throw a rock at you and hide their hands. A conservative will throw a rock at you and say, and shake it in your face, say, yeah, I threw that at you, and what? And you fight. This is the argument that Malcolm X has stated years before I was even born in the 1960s. Conservatives are wolves and liberals are foxes. They'll pretend to be your friend. If a conservative is not your friend, he will let you know he's not your friend. Conservatives tend to be more straightforward than liberals. Liberals want to use deceit and trickery to get you a vote along or do things that they want you to do. And then once you experience the drawbacks of their policies, it's too late to take them back. This is what the black community has been going through for 60-something years. And every time black conservatives try to say, hey, look, try the GOP for a try. Hey, take matters into your own hands. Stop relying on the government because the government can't save you from your circumstances. You have to save you from your circumstances. And Republicans will empower you to take on the responsibility that you need to actually fix the problems in your life. And the Democrat message, you say, no, you don't need to do that. Let us coddle you. Let us baby you. Let us keep you dependent on the government. And I want to leave off in this. And this is why I think American voters need to study history. Because a lot of the ideas that are being pushed by the Democrats, by the Republicans, it's been tried before. And you have to evaluate the trade-offs and say, hey, does this what we need right now in this day and age? We're almost $35 trillion in debt. Do we really need this right now? One of the most important reasons for studying history is that virtually every stupid idea that is in vogue today has been tried before and proved disastrous before, time and again. And like a new generation, there's always, like, you know how the scammers always say there's always a new sucker? When a new generation is coming up of young people, and you get these communist people who tend to be in academia, because in academia, you live in the theoretical. You don't have to prove your arguments. You just have to make suggestions and prove some type of vague correlation, and they'll give you your research or peer-reviewed marker of approval, right? Your kids are getting conditioned with the new, they're the new suckers. They're getting conditioned with these new policy positions. Oh, price controls work. And then they don't look at every instance of price control that was implemented. It made living conditions harder. Upkeep, there's no incentive for the business owner to upkeep, the landlord to upkeep the property because he's wasting money. He'll be losing money if he actually fix your toilet, fix the infrastructure that's wrong with the building, because he's not incentivized to fix anything. Because you're incentivized to stay put no matter what. So if a business know, hey, this customer is never leaving, you're more open to get what? Mistreated. You're not going to get the best service. But they don't see those incentives. They want to tax the rich. When we're in so much debt right now, I believe that in the next year, we'll be 76% of our tax revenue is going towards paying interest on our $35 trillion debt. and taxing the rich, right? If tax the rich succeeds, we're only getting $500 billion, which is nothing compared to $1 trillion. And they, oh, look, we'll have the money to do everything. We'll be able to fund it. And that is if they can get the money. Because if you look through history, and this is one reason why you should study history, especially when it comes to policy outcomes, every Democratic president generated less tax revenue than a Republican president. Kenny, how can that be when Republicans tend to cut taxes? Well, here's a correlation I'll put in front of you, and this has never been proven wrong when it comes to taxing the rich or taxing anybody. The more you tax, the lazier people tend to be. Because end of the day, would you work harder if you knew, hey, you get to keep 100% of what you make? Or you work harder if you only keep half of what you make? You see? Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. This plays out in a bigger scale in the federal government. The only Democrat to buck this trend of generating less tax revenue than their Democratic counterpart, Republican counterpart, is JFK. JFK was in proponents of what? Tax cuts. JFK implemented tax cuts. See, if Democrats operated more like, oh, like this is just my party, but here's my policy positions, they'll be a lot more competitive party. But no, there's a purity test on the Democratic side. You have to believe in these things, in these set of things, and then they get mad about the two-party system. Republicans get me closer to what I want. Democrats get me further away from what I want. And that's really what politics is. But people try to make it, oh, life or death, villains, super villains, like, because they don't have any policy to actually run on. And then we wonder why we have lost substantive debates. In the 1960s, 70s, 80s, they used to televise these intellectual debates all the time. Thomas Sowell used to speak, and this is the funny part about this education. These people who go in these college Ivy League degrees, they go for economics, they're never exposed to contrarian or alternative or economist views like Thomas Sowell, right? Misu, no, I forgot his name, Hayek. They're never exposed to these other economist thinkers and what their propositions are. Only the left-wing ones. Only the ones that justify government spending. Only the ones that endorse modern monetary theory, which is this dumb BS idea that government can always print its own money and it won't suffer much inflation because the government's the one issuing the money, not private businesses. Make that make sense to me. But look, here we are. Student loan forgiveness contributed 27% to the inflation rate. How can you keep wanting more government programs when we can't even afford the government programs we have right now? 76% of your income is going just to pay interest. If you met an individual who told you, hey, I spent 76% of my money paying off debt, you're going to be like, hey, you're in dire straits. You need to either cut costs somewhere else and pay that thing off to free up your income, or you make more income. But here's the problem. Taxing the rich is not going to generate more income because you're going to disincentivize the rich to actually generate income. They're going to find ways of, okay, how can I maintain what I got going on? How can I save most of my money because I don't want the government taking most of my money? United States used to have a 90% tax rate. Why did we come back down to 33% corporate tax rate? Or why the max is only 37%? Because we tried those ideas already. But here they are, right? Trying to get a new sucker. They're talking to our young people, to the youth, telling them, oh, we need to tax the rich. We need to do this and that. But it's been tried before. And this is what in the intro I was trying to highlight with that as a summary, is that Google, these people who controls the technology, they're really trying to shift and they're trying to guide us down a particular path that is not in our best interest. Right? Because at the end of the day, all these wealthy people are donating to Democrats. These Hollywood, rich, elitist people, they're donating, voting Democrat, openly up for Democrats. And you have to ask yourself, why? I thought Democrats was a party against the rich. Why the rich are donating to them? You have to ask yourself why. Because at the end of the day, socialism, it doesn't hurt the rich. Socialism, essentially, the rich can make the terms. The rich has more negotiating power the more you tax them. Because then they know, hey, the system is more reliant on us. Increasing taxes on the rich creates a nobleman class, I forgot what it's called, a kleptocracy or whatever you call it, where literally they can control your politicians. Y'all mad about big money controlling politics. If you make our government socialist and they're able to control, you essentially you made an oligarchy. Because at the end of the day, regardless if it's capitalism, socialism, the people who are successful and the richest people in capitalism, they ought to be the same people who's running ish in socialism. You just change the goal of the game. In capitalism, the goal is, hey, make people give you money. How do I make people give me money? I got to provide a good product, a good service, and all their brain power is focused on trying to give you the best service, the best product. If you change it, if you put these same people into a socialist environment, a socialist government, their idea is, how do I get a position in government? How do I gain political power? And they'll be the ones running ish. Like, you pick your poison, pick your struggle. But these people, end of the day, socialism is politicians are the rich ones. Capitalism is the most productive people are the richest. The most innovative people are the richest, and the most the people who have the most impact on society are the richest. While in socialism, it's the politician. So everyone's gonna be fighting on trying to how they can be a politician, because that's the only way you could be rich in a socialist society. But yeah, I don't see it that way. This is why I'm just laughing. I'm like, yo, capitalism gives the best outcome for majority of people compared to socialism. But the socialists only want to care about the few free things they're gonna get at the expense of who, though? Socialism is incentivizing laziness. Regardless if I work or don't work, I'm still gonna get the same money as someone who busts their ass in the field to generate the food. And then I'm gonna get the food for free or subsidized by taxing the person that's actually producing the money. And then when the producers they stop working, they stop producing, they're like, yo, what's the point of working this hard when I'm just gonna get the same thing as this guy who's been sleeping in his room all day and only comes out during lunchtime? F it, I'm not gonna work as hard anymore. Because that's the logical choice. That's the incentive structure you created. And this is why every socialist regime, when implemented, must use force to force people to work. And even then, they won't still be as productive as if they intrinsically themselves decide that they want to be productive. Show me the incentive, and I'll show you the outcome. And this is why capitalism is the best in regards of lifting people out of poverty. Socialism is only good at making $1 trillion GDP into $1 billion GDP. Socialism is only good at draining the wealth from the most productive people in the society that actually run society. The 20-80 rule, 20% of the society is producing 80% of the resources, the work, the products, the solutions. Capitalism incentivizes those 20% to keep working at the benefit of everyone else. Socialism make the 20% work at the benefit of everyone else with no benefit. This is why socialism is slavery. That's my position. But you got Google and all this stuff. They just want to feed you a narrative. Oh yeah, this is a good thing. You got journalists, 97% Democrat, trying to make it, Republicans are worshiping a dictator. It's a cult. When they themselves are a cult. They're the pot calling the kettle black. You talking about people who support Trump are in a cult. You're in a cult. 96%, all of them agree with you in these Ivy Leagues. How is this not a cult? If you found out, hey, this is new religion that's being pushed in society, and 96% of these people run your institutions, and all of a sudden, all your college kids are pushing this new religion, this new cultist religion, you're going to have problems with that. This is the same thing with political ideology today in 2024. This is why I say education is one of the most long-term concerns that I have in our country, because it seems like we're getting dumber and dumber as the years go by. We're raising less resilient young people as the generations go by. But no one else sees a problem in that. It only seems like conservatives have a problem with this. Liberals get the benefit off of America that's gone, dead and gone, and we're left with the scraps of it. And they want to maintain that status quo. Like, they want to change the rules. You get to come in as a white guy executive, and now when you retire, it got to be a black woman. It got to be a minority. Why haven't you best for the job? So when everything was colorblind, hey, let's not focus on people's skin color. You got to succeed, and then you use DEI as a way to close the door behind you. This is the argument against the white liberals with their virtue signaling. White liberals have an incentive, because if you look at studies, white liberals have a negative bias against their own race, their own group of people. Imagine that. White liberals have a negative bias against their own group of people. So black people, minorities, you guys are just being used as a means to an end for the white liberals to get at their white conservative counterparts. But then these same black Democrats and black liberals will come here and say, oh, you're a black conservative, you're being used as a pawn for a white conservative's gain. Pot calling the kettle black. Black Democrat. White liberals have a negative bias against their own group of people. You're a pawn in their game. You don't see it that way, though, because you think you have some benefit off of that. Benefit being treated like a child. Y'all want to talk about tokens when y'all the biggest tokens in the political discussion. Y'all got nothing to debate on. Only race. I only talk about race because that seems to be the most popular thing about you guys. Whenever I disagree with a black Democrat, it always go back to race. It never stick on the policies. Never. But they're the ones lecturing you about tokenism. But if you erase race out of the equation, say, hey, let's not talk about race. Let's talk about these policies. Lose, loss. They only criticize Kamala because she's a black woman. Race and gender, that's all y'all got. But I digress. I think I went on a little tangent there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.